That would include thoughts of the mind, sensations of the body, and perceptions of the world. They're arising and passing away, appearing and disappearing like sounds, which our mind normally construes as coming from the world, constituting the world. But in our actual experience right now, we notice that sounds just come and go, as do thoughts, as do all perceptions, as do all sensations, as do all emotions, all moods. We drop it. We watch it, but we don't grasp. Can you touch in with the sense of relief and freedom that we can get just by this simple step? In fact, the joy of having found so quickly our freedom. Now, one of the things that we notice appearing and disappearing is the breath. And we take an interest in the breath. We've given up grasping and clinging to all objects, so we're not grasping or clinging to the breath. We're just watching it. In the same way that I might sit and look out the window and watch the treetops swaying in the wind. I'm not actually seeing the wind, but I'm seeing some kind of a clue about the wind. I'm seeing some kind of a trace of an invisible presence that's full of life. So we get interested in this. As we relax, with each in-breath and each out-breath, See if you can connect with the mystery that is the breath. Because we have a word for it, the mind suddenly thinks it understands. Oh, it's the breath. It's just that same old breath, the mind says. And because it has a word, because it's happened every moment that we've been alive, unless we're careful, we'll put it aside. But here we decide to take a look at that which brings us life. By paying respect and attention with gratitude and sincere interest and caring. We want to be more and more intimate with our life through the breath. With gratitude and caring interest. That's why we pay continuous attention not missing a moment of this life, watching the in-breath all the way up and watching it all the way down as we relax and enjoy. Notice that the breath which will always keep on breathing on its own, will allow us, if we pay attention, to step in and lengthen the breath. There's no resistance. We just, with awareness, arouse the intention to bring in a long breath, breathing in a little more than we normally do, and then just letting go, relaxing. Notice the natural relaxation that comes with an exhale, and recognize that this is the body's way of giving us a free healing. The body heals on its own if we let it. See if you can notice that the body seems to be quite happy when we pay attention to it. And life seems to be happy when we pay attention to it. And it's very responsive to our love and our care and our kindness, and tends to give back twice what we give. So we humbly pay attention with caring interest to the breath. Breathing in, I feel gratitude to the life of the breath. Breathing out, I gratefully accept the relaxation that life gives me. Breathing in, I gratefully accept the energy the breath gives me. Breathing out, I spread that energy to all parts of my body. Breathing in, I nourish my radiant, loving heart. Breathing out, I let the love of my heart travel through my body and beyond in all directions to touch all beings. Breathing in, I relax my whole body. Breathing out, I relax in joy. So take a moment now to look around within awareness, noticing whatever subtle sounds you might hear in your room, however subtle they may be, the chair creaking or the wind vent blowing some air, sound of my voice. Then notice the sensations of breathing, the chest rising and falling, for example, or air passing in and out of the nose. Just notice that sensation. And notice any thoughts that may be running through the mind, maybe any thought at all. So it's from these things that the mind forms our understanding of the of this life. That is sensations of the body, thoughts of the mind, perceptions of the world. Take a moment now to look around and see, even though the mind, by the way it labels things, sensations, perceptions, thoughts, see if you can actually find any dividing line in awareness that separates a thought from a sensation from a perception. Just in pure experience. Of course, there will be thoughts that assert a separation, but just now put those thoughts aside and look directly into experience. Do you find any dividing line? Any border between one and the other? Especially, interestingly enough, sensations of the body seem to be quite commingled, borderless in the space of awareness, right along with thoughts, perceptions, and everything else we might experience, moods, emotions, etc. In other words, everything is arising within awareness. Just see if you can notice that. Just thoughts of the mind, sensations of the body, perceptions of the world are arising within awareness. And like the bird that I can hear here, it chirps, and then the sound is gone. Sensations come and go, thoughts come and go. Now, if thoughts of the mind, perceptions of the world, and sensations of the body arise in awareness, live briefly in awareness, disappear in awareness, and others reappear and do the same. What must all of these experiences, thoughts, sensations, and perceptions be made of? But awareness, arising within awareness, living briefly in awareness, passing away in awareness, re-arising in awareness. Again, we're just looking at it from direct experience. It's an exploration into what our experience is telling us. There's an inclusivity here. Awareness is encompassing thoughts of the mind, perceptions of the world, sensations of the body. All these things are arising in awareness, passing away in awareness. Meanwhile, awareness is completely at ease, completely accepting, and completely clear. One way to describe this experience of awareness would be love. In that there's no separation, one object from another in awareness. They are labeled that way by the mind, but in awareness, they are commingled. The word that Thich Nhat Hanh uses to describe this is they inter-be, they inter-are. All experiences inter-are. Our experience of life is an experience of interbeing. In that same space of awareness are our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents and our friends. Can we adjust our understanding that comes from our direct experience? Can we adjust our understanding of love as this experience of interbeing, which is right there for us to notice at any time? All that we know and all that we are is right there, arising and passing away in awareness, while awareness alone is always there. And in a sense, you could say continuous awareness of the breath allowed us to have this road, this path into awareness. It helped us come here. It helped us settle down. It helped us relax. It helped us to feel joy. And it sparked an interest. It sparked a loving investigation into the nature of our being, and possibly into the discovery of love. So just continuing to breathe, continuing to enjoy the bliss of relaxation. Stay with reflection if you'd like, or enjoy the bliss of letting it go. There's the breath, and there's the awareness of the breath. so reliable, so full of life. And so demonstrating the way that, that love is known. That love is. We're all here inside of each other. In, in shared awareness. Many manifestations, but one being. So whenever you're ready, feel free to gently open your eyes, keeping 51% or more awareness in the body, in this here where everything's happening, keeping an eye right here. So I'd like to begin my talk tonight with a story told by Thich Nhat Hanh. And it's a story of war. And it comes from a book that he wrote called At Home in the World. And can I tell you something about the word world as it's understood by the Buddha, the way the Buddha taught when he used the word world, loka? He defined it as whatever is happening, whatever is being known by the six senses. That means whatever is being known by the eyes, the ears, the nose, the body, and the tongue, and is being known by the mind in the form of thoughts. That's the world. That's loka. And it's our home. All these things are arising and passing away in awareness. And so when I read that title, At Home in the World, I'm thinking Thich Nhat Hanh knows what the world means in a Buddhist understanding. And he's talking about being at home in these, amongst all these appearances that are always coming in, giving us pictures in our mind of the way things are. Not that we usually understand the pictures that are given to us, although the practice is a practice where we hopefully will understand the actual nature of what our mind calls the world, and that actual nature is arising and passing away, constant transformation. So this story is a story of transformation, and it's called The Coconut Monk. It's quite short. Let me read it to you. During the war, Thich Nhat Hanh writes, there was a monk who lived on an island in the middle of the Mekong River. He built a platform in a coconut tree where he could meditate. Up there, he could feel the breeze and enjoy looking down at the river. The coconut monk did many things in order to educate people about peace. He organized a practice center on the island and invited people to come and practice sitting meditation with him. He collected bullets and bomb fragments and made them into a big bell, a bell of mindfulness, which he hung in his practice center. Every morning and evening, he invited the bell to sound, and he wrote a beautiful poem in which he said, "Dear bullets, dear bombs, I have helped you to come together to practice. In your former life, you have killed and destroyed, but in this life, you are practicing, calling people to wake up to humanity, to love, to understanding." The body is made up of so many things, and not all of them are pleasant. And the mind is made up of so many things, not all of them pleasant. But with mindfulness, with continuous awareness, it's not we that does it, but it's the awareness can melt these down, and life itself will refashion them into bright life. I wanted to share that story because tonight I want to bring out some of the deeper understandings that we might come across in this meditation that we've been practicing this weekend on full awareness of breathing. And how we might be able to take some of these understandings and not let them remain impotent, but to energize them and to bring them up out of the deep so they can manifest like that bell in our daily life. Can we not only relax ourselves by being so open and accepting and breathing through all of the difficulty, but can we also notice how life itself will reconstitute and share itself in the form of beauty, as the coconut monk showed us. And the new element that I wanted to bring in tonight, take a look at the phrasing, the full awareness of breathing. That's what Thich Nhat Hanh calls the process of anapanasati. He calls it the full awareness of breathing. Now, let me ask you this. When your mind has taken in that phrase, has it tended to go towards the word breathing or to the word awareness? That's my question. I know for me, my mind tends to go towards the word breathing. Why does it do that? It does that because we are conditioned to go out and grasp objects. In a sense, when we see the phrase full awareness of breathing, we tend to see breathing as the piece of chocolate cake in the refrigerator. And we think we can go to it and get some relief. And that's the very problem. That's the very reason why we suffer, because we're always going out to objects and grasping them. And we need to be careful not to do that in this practice. And it's what Thich Nhat Hanh is always showing us. He's always showing, if we're just there to pick it up, he's showing us to keep our attention on what it is, not that we can understand it, because it's way beyond the mind ability to understand, but we can feel with our heart and we can know with our heart what it is that is so miraculous that everything arises within it, is known for a time, and disappears within it. That's awareness. And breathing is what takes us there. Breathing takes us to awareness. That's a point we can't miss. And when we talk about daily life and bringing the practice into daily life, we need to remember that we can use all of the objects that appear in daily life in the same way that we use breathing and meditation. We can use them to take us to the miracle of awareness, the miracle of consciousness, which is the miracle of life. Consciousness is life. That's where all of life happens. Just like the coconut monk used bullets and bombs to take him to love through awareness. He saw deeply into bullets and bombs. Bullets and bombs have a being just like everything else. It's not different from our being. It's a miraculous being. And that's why the coconut monk could say, "Dear bullets and dear bombs, I see you. And I love your essence. I love your being." And I share with you the practice of awareness. So tonight, it's just this one all-important shift in the normal way that we see and experience that I'm trying to bring across in the guided meditation, and now through some stories from Thich Nhat Hanh and others, so that we don't miss this point, and we don't, let me put it this way, kind of just create another practice of grasping in awareness of breathing. In other words, it would be possible for us to get so attached to the pleasantness and the relaxation of breathing that we could get a bit graspy about it. If we were to do that and just stay there all the time without shifting our attention to what it is directing us to, we'd miss a lot. Now, this is not to say that the breath itself isn't a fantastic medicine. It is. and it should be used. It is such a powerful thing. But the power of it is actually in the awareness of it. And we want to use tonight to explore that a bit, especially in the direction of understanding awareness in this new way that I'm suggesting, which is that if we really want to know and to live in and as love, which is the experience of not experiencing separation one from another, we never have to go any further than noticing awareness itself. The breath can take us there, and then we can rest in it, and we can start to explore what it's like to live not as a separate being, but as one being that shares eternal, limitless, and borderlessness with all other beings. That's what we're trying to do tonight. Now, let me share with you a few lines from Thich Nhat Hanh again, where he's talking about continuous awareness, so that we're not for a moment separating ourselves from life. And of course, he uses the breath as the way to connect us to awareness each moment. So he says, although we're alive, we're often not able to bring our minds into the present moment, and we tend to live in forgetfulness. But we can begin to enter the present moment by becoming aware of our breath, breathing in and breathing out. We know we are breathing in and out. And again, in that sentence, our mind will skip over that word know, but everything is in that word. It's the knowing. The breathing is a fantastic mystery, but in a sense, it's just another mystery along with the trees and the stars and the table and a paper cup. Everything that exists is a big mystery. Now, the breath is a special, very special category because it's sort of halfway between us and the mystery. It's where the mystery comes in and lives for a while and passes out. And that's why we choose this particular object to keep bringing us to awareness, because it's so close to awareness. But we need to be able to see the word awareness, the word know, because that's where the magic is. That's where the mystery is. That's where the life is. So, and Thich Nhat Hanh is constantly encouraging us, for instance, to use awareness to look deeply into things, including the breath. We're not just going there to relax, although that's a huge and wonderful thing, but we also at some point would like to consider the possibility of using our clear and relaxed mind to look deeply into the nature of things, to look into a bullet or a bomb and see a oneness with that at some level, and a love enough to share our being. So he continues on, as awareness increases, see, that's the thing. It's not the breath. It's as awareness increases, we can smile to affirm that we are in control of ourselves. And there's metta right there. A smile is metta. That's what happens when we pay attention to this body and to this life. Love just starts to pour out. And it comes out as a smile. So he's demonstrating how watching the breath and developing the heart go right together. A smile comes up naturally. Through full awareness of breathing, we can be awake in and to the present moment. And then he continues on, getting to the point of the talk tonight. Most of our daily activities can be accomplished while following our breath, according to the exercises in the sutra, the Anapanasati Sutta, the sutra on full awareness of breathing. When our work demands special attentiveness to avoid confusion or an accident, we can unite full awareness of breathing with the task itself. And this is something I encourage you to do tonight and tomorrow, is to see if you can do things while maintaining awareness of breathing. So if you're drinking a cup of tea, notice where the breath is as you're doing it. Just keep it in the foreground, and the other experiences of tea drinking in the background. You're not in any way blotting them out. And you're staying very relaxed. If you're not relaxed, you're not going to be able to do it. But see if you can just maintain awareness by maintaining awareness of breathing. So he says, for example, when we are carrying a pot of boiling water or doing electrical repairs, we can be aware of every moment of our hands, and we can nourish this awareness by means of our breath. Breathing in, I am aware of my hands carrying a pot of boiling water. Breathing out, I am aware that my right hand is holding an electrical wire. Breathing in, I am aware that I am passing another car. Breathing out, I know that the situation is under control. We can practice like this, he says. You know, I had an experience quite a few years ago where I was experimenting with this, and I was driving from Rochester to Minneapolis, which is about a 90-minute drive. And my late wife was with me, and she was in the front seat next to me, and I didn't tell her I was doing it, but I decided, I was wondering, can I watch my breath for the entire drive? And I actually did it. And we had a conversation and everything. That was really a big eye opener for me. And we had a nice conversation, and it actually enhanced my ability to what was happening on the road and everything else. Why? Because just keeping awareness on the breath increased my awareness of everything. And it was really, really nice. It was quite an eye opener for me, and an awareness opener. Here's another example of how Thich Nhat Hanh does this. And again, I'm thinking, can you bring this into your life? And I picked this one out especially because I was thinking about talking this weekend a bit more about simplicity. And I'm not going to pick that up as a topic, but there's a word for it in Pali, and the Buddha taught a lot about it. But you know, it's really important to keep this practice simple. Really important. Because it's the mind that comes in and makes all the divisions and makes all the complications. And we really want to, with great love and respect for all the things the mind is and does, we really want to let it relax and to bring awareness to the fore, which means to bring love to the fore. Those two are not different. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for now, bring awareness to the fore and allow the intelligence of awareness to start running the show, because it does a lot better than our ignorant mind. So here's what Thich Nhat Hanh says. And in this case, he's talking about, you might know from Thich Nhat Hanh that he writes short little poems that he calls gathas, that are called gathas. And he says here, gathas are short verses that help us practice mindfulness in our daily activities. A gatha can open and deepen our experience of simple acts, which we often take for granted. When we focus our mind on a gatha, we return to ourselves and become more aware of each action. When the gatha ends, we continue our activity with heightened awareness. Then he says, as we turn on the water faucet, we can look deeply and see how precious the water is. I would just take a little issue as an editor. It's actually not we. You could say we are seeing deeply, but you know, it's life itself is seeing into itself. As we turn on the water faucet, we can look deeply and see how precious the water is. We'll see how precious everything is if we really empower our awareness, because everything that has being is precious. If you look up in the night sky, it's mostly non-being. It's not mostly being. It's amazing that there are things that be, and we're part of it. He says, we remember not to waste a single drop of water because there are so many people in the world who don't even have enough to drink. While brushing our teeth, we can make a vow to use loving speech. Before turning on the engine of our car, we can prepare for a safe journey by reciting the gatha for starting the car. And he wrote this little gatha, which goes, before starting the car, I know where I am going. The car and I are one. If the car goes fast, I go fast. He says, the Gatha brings our mind and body together. My body just now naturally went like this. With a calm and clear mind, fully aware of the activities of our body, we are less likely to get into a car accident. Gathas are nourishment for our mind, bringing us peace, calmness, and joy, which we can share with others. They help us to bring the uninterrupted practice of meditation into every part of our day. So, yeah, maybe someone might feel inspired to write a Gatha or two and share it with us. Or you could go on the internet and just type in Thich Nhat Hanh and Gatha, and there's plenty of them there. You might use this one if you're starting your car sometime. But just to say that, can you see how he's using our breath to direct our attention, not only to the breath, but to life itself that manifests in so many beautiful, fantastic ways, but always as an interconnected whole. What did his mind, the mind of love, the heart of love, what did it say about him in the car? They're one. That's what awareness always notices, because that's what awareness is. Awareness is the only place anything ever happens. Conscious is the only place that anything ever happens. And we can know that because it's our actual experience. And so, again, just bringing in this new element tonight of we can do both. We can use the breath to deliver us to what Thich Nhat Hanh actually said, deliver us to the safe island of awareness. That was the phrase he uses. Letting our breath bring us to the safe island of awareness. That's what the breath does. It's a conveyor. It's the knowledge of the breath, which brings us to a greater awareness. And that's our home. The breath isn't our home. It's where the breath takes us as our home. And that's love. That's awareness. We're going tonight towards an understanding of awareness as love. In other words, anytime you want to know love or be love, you can go to the breath to take you to awareness, or you can go straight to awareness. And that's where we're going right now. So let me share with you a little story about Sayadaw U Tejaniya, who is one of my main teachers from Burma. Not finding the actual quote, but I'll tell you what the actual quote was. I'll tell you what he said. He said that for many years, he would go to meditation retreats and he would do the metta meditations that were taught there. But he said he wasn't getting any better. Things weren't happening for him. And then he said it was only when he started to pay attention to what he called the bad things, which means greed, hatred, and delusion, and keeping his attention on them, that finally things started to change for him. In other words, if he was always putting his attention on loving kindness, it was feeling forced to him and a bit mechanical. Whereas as soon as he started to look at greed, hatred, and delusion consistently, they started to dissolve, and the natural loving kindness that was always there just started to pop out. It's similar to the coconut monk who was looking into bullets and bombs and found love there. Now, but here's something interesting. With regard to the breath, Sayadaw's own journey, and remember that we're all different in our conditioning, and therefore different of us will choose different conveyances, different modes to get us to awareness. And also, some of us, like me, I'm of the condition that sometimes I want to use the breath to take me to awareness. Sometimes I need it. Especially, I must say, in those times like that was shared this afternoon. One of our friends was experiencing grief, and that's a good time to use the breath, especially when things are really up and down and difficult. It's really great to go to the breath. And you need something strong to bring you right here. Other times I found over the years, and I've been very grateful for a practice which is just the flip side, which is described by Sayadaw right here. Now, I do have the direct quote here, so let me describe it to you. And as I read it to you, see if you can hear in what he's saying what I was saying about sometimes instead, when you see the sentence full awareness of breathing, go to the word awareness and not the word breath and see what happens. Here's what he said. Sayadaw said, once you know there is awareness of the breath, notice the awareness more than the breath. Let go of the object, meaning the breath, and stay with the awareness. And you're not letting go of the object because awareness will always know the object. Only difference being it's being known but not being grasped to, because awareness doesn't grasp things. It just knows things. Beautiful. We have within us, we are within something that knows and doesn't grasp, and that is awareness. It's really important to be able to go right there. Not that we have a lot of practice with it. Maybe this is the first time you ever heard somebody say that. We didn't get that. We always heard, go to a prayer, go to a teacher, go to a this, go to a that, go to the fridge, go to the store. Whoever said go to that which knows? But that's what the Buddha said, and that's what all the great teachers say. So then Sayadaw goes on, once we let go of the one object that we know, awareness opens up and it shows you what else it already knows. And it knows a lot. Here's a quote from Ajahn Sumedho, who is another teacher in the insight tradition. And among all insight teachers that I've known so far, I think Ajahn Sumedho is the one who most clearly articulates this particular path, which again is not to be thought of as in opposition in any way to using the breath to take us to awareness, but rather that sometimes going directly to awareness is what does the trick. And we can stand in awe, and use both of those methods depending on what the situation requires. But here's what Ajahn Sumedho says about this. He says, meditation can mean all kinds of things. It's a word that includes any kind of mental practices, good or bad. But when I use this word, what I'm mainly using it for is that sense of centering, that sense of establishing, resting in the center. And the only way that one can really do that is not to try and think about it and analyze it. You have to trust in just a simple act of attention, of awareness. It's so simple and so direct that our complicated minds get very confused. What's he talking about? He says here, I've never seen any still point. I've never found a still point in me. When I sit and meditate, there's nothing still about it. But then Sumedho says, yes, but there's an awareness of that. There's an awareness of the lack of stillness, and that awareness is still. So Sumedho goes on, even if you think you've never had a still point or you're a confused, messed up character that can't really meditate, trust in the awareness of that perception. And I think that's what my mom was doing when she looked at her confusion from dementia. She discovered on her own, because she wasn't a practitioner, she wasn't a meditator, but she discovered on her own a clarity. And the clarity was the clarity that knew that she was confused. And she went to that clarity instead of her confusion, and she let go and laughed. She always giggled or laughed when she said, You're here, I'm here, what more do we need? And she would laugh. I can't help but laugh because she always did when she said that. And just think of it. Awareness can do that because it is totally inclusive. It just accepts everything unconditionally. And there's a caring quality that comes along with it. And it's natural and it's inbred. It's not just in us, it's who we literally are. It is our true nature. Yes, quite often covered over by things like our thoughts and our minds, which take us in the direction of fantasy and worry. But we can drop that and just be here and be very inclusive of all experience. See, the thing is, if you're having a tough time of some kind or another, whether it's forgetfulness or anger or jealousy or somebody blamed me or hurt me, if you stay with that, you're just going to continue suffering. But if you can step back and simply know it, you can be clear about it. There can be a clarity and a distance and a sense of relief. And those issues regarding the mind itself, like if you're in a confused state, that's particularly difficult because we are so conditioned to think that if we're thinking clearly, quote unquote, then we're okay. But if we're confused, we're not okay. And there we get into a fight with our thoughts and with our self-image. But just think at any moment that you're confused, which is a perfectly natural thing for all of us at different times, just recognize that you can be 100% clear that you're confused. And go to the clarity and just sit it out. Just sit there and watch the confusion until, like all clouds in the sky, they eventually dissipate and fly away. And I keep coming back to this point that this inclusive nature, which is so inclusive it can accept anything within it, in this caring, patient, loving state, is love itself. And awareness is that all-embracing knowing, which we can shift to. And we do need to take some time because maybe this is new. And so I'm suggesting just try it for a while. And this is the kind of thing where we go and rest as awareness. And it's a little tentative at first. And we just keep going there and visiting and coming back. And eventually we just go visit more and more. And eventually we learn how to go there and stay there, just resting as awareness, which means being love. Here again, I'm going to read you what Bhante Gunaratana said, which I quoted last night. I think in light of tonight's unfolding, maybe you'll hear it a little bit differently. He said, we are, and he italicized it in his book, we are loving friendliness. Loving friendliness is the nature of the universe and the true nature of each of us. To clear greed, hatred, and delusion from the field of our consciousness and allow our basic nature to arise, we need only to allow good wishes to flow. That is what that is what love naturally does. It flows, it radiates good wishes. And the Buddha offered us some tools with which to do that. And we're exploring another avenue tonight, which is going directly to awareness as opposed to going by means of the breath. And by the way, and this is something to play with and experience. If you pay attention, if you stay with the breath long enough, and it doesn't have to be long, it can be a minute, can be 5 minutes, but there can be, or longer, but there comes a time when you're watching the breath so carefully, but in total relaxation, the boundary between awareness and the breath just starts to completely dissolve. And there's no awareness and breath. There's just this ongoing unknowingness of what's happening. And the breath is a knowing. And even now we can understand it intellectually, right? The breath is known. It is a knowing. That's what it fundamentally is. It is something that is known. And so even to posit that these are different things, full awareness of the breath, or using breath as a conveyance to go to awareness, or going directly to awareness, even that breaks down, because if we really get quiet and look at the situation, it all resolves into knowingness. I'm going to post some words on this from the teacher that I have followed on this so-called direct path, that addresses this point. He wrote an essay once called "What Do I Mean by Love?" And if you're drawn to it, I would encourage you to take a look, because it articulates this better than I could. And I'd like to close tonight by sharing a story with you. So I was speaking to my teacher, Rupert Spira. He does weekly online satsangs, which are gatherings, such as the one we're having tonight. And he usually gets 100 or 200 people who come onto the calls, and they're calling in from all over the world, actually, always all over the world. And Rupert is a teacher who teaches going directly to awareness, directly to being. And that's his teaching. And on this particular call, there was a young woman. She looked like she might be 30 or so. She was standing outside at night, and she was smiling broadly. And on this call, again with 200 or 300 people listening in, she spoke to Rupert, the teacher, and she said, "I am in Kiev, Ukraine, and I have this question. How do I stay courageous in the face of possible death?" she asked. This was about a week ago, by the way. Well, Rupert closed his eyes and didn't say anything for about a minute. And everybody did the same. In much the same way that we hear today, when we hear somebody share something that's painful for them, we all quite naturally and beautifully listen with our open heart, as we did today on several occasions. And in a sense, what's happening is we're using our open hearts to process what one particular localized consciousness is having difficulty processing. So we all step in and do some of that work, because we all recognize that we're one consciousness. So we naturally pick up the work, right? Isn't that what happened? When somebody shares the way they've shared several times today on the calls, we all pick it up, and we all just start naturally doing the work, because in our heart of hearts, we know we're one. So we start doing the work for each other. It's a beautiful thing. Anyway, finally, Rupert opened his eyes and he said, smiling, "The source of all courage in the face of possible death is a recognition of the ever-present nature of being." Do you remember the story that Thich Nhat Hanh told about the wave finding refuge in the water? This is what Rupert's talking about. If we can recognize the nature of our being as love, but we don't even have to go that far. We can just say our beingness. By the way, this is what I really wanted to get at when I talked about simplicity. Drop everything. Drop every single thought, every single emotion, all the stories we tell. What are we left with? We're left with our being, the fact that we exist. Utterly amazing. And we can feel such joy that we are. Yeah. So this is what Rupert said: the source of all courage in the face of possible death is a recognition of the ever-present nature of being. Behind whatever fear may arise lies your ever-present being, the ever-present being of God's being. He likes to use the word God because God, him, is the love we're talking about now. The only being there is. That one is ultimately ever-present, deathless. And real courage comes from that recognition, which doesn't necessarily mean to say that this recognition needs to be formulated in the way that I have, he added, because everybody formulates it in their own way. But can we all find a way to just drop all the stories we tell and just recognize pure being and rest in that pure being, which is love? And Lilia, who is the name of the woman who was asking that question, she later found her way to a computer and wrote a little note. And she said, "These are the darkest times many people in my country and I have experienced in our lifetimes. The understanding of being has been a solace and a beacon of light for my husband and me. I feel inspired to share it to the best of my ability when appropriate, whether it is expressed in these terms or in a smile. There's love. I'm so grateful to you for sending your heartfelt prayers. The light of your prayers is reaching us and empowering every single one of our actions." And then she says, "This war has brought about so much unity among us. Very counterintuitively, I feel there is a wisdom in this war that we are yet to uncover. With much, much love from Ukraine, Lilia." Now, when she says wisdom in the war, I'm thinking of the coconut monk. For her to say such a thing means that she's seeing very deeply into those bombs. And she's really opened her awareness wide, and she's seeing all there is to see. Yeah, so I wanted to just share that story because this is a practical example in the daily life of one person. And in this particular case, she's going directly to her gratitude for being and her recognition of her true nature as water. And she, as a wave, is finding refuge in her true nature as water. And this too can be part of our daily practice. And so it's a lot to do in one weekend, one little weekend, my friends. But, just again, planting seeds, might you open a little bit to the possibility that in your daily life tonight, tomorrow, as we go through these meditations, you could make a choice to return to the breath and stay with the breath, or turn to awareness and stay with awareness and see what happens. And possibly while staying with the breath with awareness, you recognize that you're staying with awareness. By staying with breath, you're staying with awareness. And by staying with awareness, you can be staying with the breath. In other words, the mind sees them as different, but they're actually the same. But here's the point. They're both tools that we can use to stay in touch with our radiant warm-heartedness, with our loving awareness, which is what we are, and which is life itself. Yeah. Not different, seemingly different, but not. So I'm suggesting I've offered these examples as things that we might take up and use. These apparently two different paths, and see how they might work with each other for you. So we just have a little teeny weeny bit of time, and I know I've been talking for quite a while. And it's been a lot. So I perfectly understand if you just wanted to let things sit. But if there was anybody who had a burning question or comment or reflection, we have 3 or 4 minutes.
Doug, thank you. It was just beautiful. Thank you for your sharing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Mary. It's nice to see you too.
Yes, likewise.
Hope you're well.
Yes, thank you. I am.
Well, thank you for that. And so let's just let things go. Always a good practice. Let things go, let things be. And what did Thich Nhat Hanh said? He said, I promise to tell myself to enjoy every moment. So maybe you could see if that could be a helpful practice for you tonight. Tomorrow morning, we'll get back together at 9 o'clock, and we will do a guided meditation and a short session on the third domain, which is the full awareness of the body. And it's beautiful. Can't wait to share it with you. Sweet dreams, everybody. Have a good evening. See you tomorrow morning.